Okay, so we'll start the session. Okay, so till now you might have gone through various other projects like Capstone Project 1 and Project Capstone Project 2. So in the Capstone Project 1, you have gone through this all waterfall related things and all. In Capstone Projects 2, you have gone through this agile thing, right? Agile and Scrum. So now you are going to go to this capstone project 3, that too part 1. Okay, so this session is all consist of all the concepts for business analytic concepts. Okay, you will be going through all the concepts again in this prep 1, prep 3 part 1 and part 2. Okay, so we'll be starting the session. Okay, the first question here you need to do is you need to draw a use case diagram. Okay, so Aditya, I'll be giving you a chance at the end of the session. There, you can ask me those questions. Okay. Okay. So the first question is about first question is all about you need to draw a use case diagram. Okay. So use case diagram for doing a payment through net banking. That can be by card or by wallet or net banking. Through these, how you can represent these actions in a use case diagram you need to draw. Okay. As you already studied, I think, right, in Capstone Project Prep 1 Part 2, you might have studied about these use case diagrams, like how you need to draw, what are the components, like actors, use cases, what are the types of actors, what are the types of use cases, all those things you need to mention. Okay, so for payment, what is the use case diagram that you're going to draw? You need to draw it. Okay, so for example, if you take we'll be using this generalization type in payment, right? Okay, so we'll be using generalization, right? Generalization is nothing but where we give an option to the user so that he can choose any one option and he can do the payment, right? So in that context, we'll be using this generalization. Okay, so you need to know why we are using generalization also. Okay, so this is in this way you need to draw a use case diagram in the first question. Okay, and here comes the next question. In the second question, here you need to mention about these boundary classes, control classes, and entity classes. Okay, so these classes, boundary classes, entity classes, or control classes is nothing but which are used to draw or represent in a UML components. Okay, so a boundary class is nothing but these are like UI, basic UI UA components where the user will be interacting with the system, right? With what components the user is interacting, those components can be named under this boundary classes. Okay, so how the system is interacting with external actors and all through some components only they will be interacting, right? So that components will be categorized under this boundary classes. Okay, and when it comes to these controller classes, it is like a uh, bridge or bridge between the boundary class and entity class. Okay, so it consists of the major logic that is happening on the back end, which allows to achieve the functionality. Okay, so whatever the user is interacting with the system, there should be some backend work that should complete the functionality, right? So that thing can be named under this control classes. Okay, it will take the input, process it, and complete the task. Okay, so this will be categorized under these control classes. Whereas these entity classes are nothing but the user will be interacting with the system, right? So whenever he is interacting, he will be using some data or he will be storing the data, he will be giving us the data to the system, right? So these all data will be stored under these entity classes. Okay, it contains like the data of the user, whatever the thing that is interacting, it will be storing the information. Okay, and also information and also the logic can also be stored. Okay, so for example, if you take a common example like login process is there, right? So in that login process, for example, if you take the user is going to enter the username password and he will be clicking on that login, that page is there, right? The UI components where he will be entering the username, where he will be entering the password, right? Those will be considered as boundary classes. Okay. So, and when it comes to the login part, you will be able to log in when the validation is done, right? So when the validation is done, those validation things can be coming under or can be named under this controller classes. Okay. Whereas whatever the things that he is mentioning, right? So these are stored in some database or anything, right? The username, password, so that you can whenever you log in again, those will be retrieved, right? So those will be considered under this entity classes. Okay. So this is a common example where we can give an example on all these things. Okay. So in this answer, you need to write these classes. Okay. And when it comes to the next question, whatever the classes that you have written in the previous answer, right? Boundary classes, entity classes, and control classes. So those all things you need to place in a three-tier architecture. I think you might have studied about this three-tier architecture, right? So in this three-tier architecture, you will be having like three layers, like presentation layer, application layer, and database layer. So when you hear about these classes, these all relate with three-tier architecture specific layers, right? Like in presentation layer, also you will be placing all the UI interaction components, right? So that is why you can place those boundary classes under presentation layer. Similarly, in application layer, there will be the main logic behind whatever the functionality we'll be facing, right? So that is why you can place these control classes under application layer. Similarly, entity class under data layer. Okay. Okay. So in this way, you need to place these three components in a three-tier architecture. First, write about this three-tier architecture. What do you know about this three-tier architecture? Okay. Then you can place these three layers under each category. Okay. So the next question is all about domain model. Okay. You need to draw a domain model for a user is making a payment through net banking. Okay. So whenever a payment has been doing by net banking, so what is the domain model that you are going to follow? That you need to draw it. Okay. So first, we'll be discussing about domain model. Domain model is nothing but it is a type of a conceptual model only. Okay. So under conceptual model, we'll be representing like how entities or class attributes are related to each other. Will be showing in a domain model. Okay. When you hear the domain model, it is specific to only one particular domain only. Okay. So that is the difference between a conceptual model and domain model. Okay. So in domain model, we'll be taking a specific domain in the overall project and we'll be digging deeply, like we'll be representing it deeply. What are the processes that are happening under that domain and we'll be showing in a representation way. Okay. So you can see this payment through net banking, right? This payment through net banking is specific domain under total project. For example, if you take an e-commerce application, payment is like a domain or subtopic under whole project, right? So we'll be taking the domain and represent it deeply, like how table like entities are related to each other. We'll be presenting in this domain model. Okay. So it is usually represented using these entities or attributes and association rules. I think you know about these association rules, right? So one to one, one to many, many to one. These are the types of association rules through which you can show the relationships. Okay. For example, here I've represented some sample diagram, right? A customer, whenever he initiates a net banking, right? A payment has been initiated, so a connection has been given. So whenever you want to do a payment, you should be connected with a bank, right? So you should add those bank details. That is why a payment has been a bank as entity has been given a relation. And whenever payment is initiated, we are implementing this net banking, right? So net banking has been initiated and through as it has authentication, fund transfer, etc. attributes. Similarly, whatever the process that is being going on, should represent in a domain model. Okay. So this is what you need to do or represent in a domain model. Okay. Okay. So the next question is about sequence diagram. Okay. uh, Sequence diagram is also is like a UML representation. Okay, so I think you might have heard about these UML diagrams, right? Unified modeling language, under which we have various diagrams like use case diagram, activity diagram, etc. And sequence diagram is also one category under UML diagram. Okay, so sequence diagram is usually drawn by the developer. Okay, note that we will not BA will not be doing this sequence diagram, but BA should know has should have the knowledge of the sequence diagram, like how you need to draw, and you need to understand the diagram. Okay, so that is why this question has been given. So okay, the sequence diagram is nothing but what are the series of steps that are happening on the backend side whenever a user has been interacting. Okay, so the series of steps will be there, right? So we'll be representing in a diagram through messages. So this diagram can be named as the sequence diagram. Okay, so it represents how objects interact with a particular process, and how messages are being passing on through one actor to another actor will be representing in this sequence diagram. Okay, so in the sequence diagram there are some components like actors and activation lines, lifeline, and you can see these arrows, right? These are called as these messages, through which the messages are being passed on from one actor to the another actor. Okay, and return message. From return message in essence, it is usually represented using this dot line. So that represents that it is a return message that is coming from a bank or anything. Okay, so these are the components that you will be using. Okay, the rectangle thing you are seeing, right? This is called as an activation bar. So activation bar is nothing but how much time that particular actor is active during all the process. Okay, to represent that we will be using this rectangle thing. You can see right here. Okay, so whenever a customer is doing a payment, it should first the customer initiates the payment, right? So that is why a message has been passed to the net banking system that initiating a payment request. Okay, so once a request is received, the net banking will be verifying the details of the customer with the bank, right? So validation is done. Then whatever the payment that the customer has initiated, that will be validated. Bank will be verifying all the details. When the details are correct, then only the bank will be responding, right? So all the payment details, whatever the customer initiates, those all will be verified by the bank. Once those all details are validated, then the payment is done, and when the payment is done, the customer should receive some confirmation, right? So that is why a written message has been given from the bank showing that payment has been confirmed. Okay, so the customer, when he is initiating the payment, he can only see this interface or anything, right? So on the back end, what are the steps that are happening on the back end side, those all we will be representing in this sequence diagram. Okay, so to implement this back end thing, the developers need to know, right, what process is going on. So that is why the sequence diagram is drawn by the developer itself. Okay, so that the development thing can happen easily. Okay, so this is what you need to draw in a sequence diagram. Okay, and then conceptual model. Conceptual model, like I told you, this is like a high level representation. Okay, so we'll be representing it high levelly, like how the overall project has been going on, or like how these entities or actors are related to each other. Okay, under conceptual model only we'll be drawing various other models, like domain model is also one type of a conceptual model. And you might have heard about this ER diagram, right? In the previous part, in the previous capstone project, you might have heard about this ER diagram, entity relationship diagram. Okay, so this conceptual model can be related to is almost similar to the ER diagram. Okay, so in those we will be representing how a specific actor or a specific entity, how these are related to each other in the overall project. We'll be representing in this conceptual model. Okay, that too in a visual way. Okay, so here in this conceptual model you don't need to draw any model. Okay, whereas sequence diagram domain model you need to draw. Okay, so here with the help of the components like entities, attributes, and relationships only, we will be representing this conceptual model. Entities are nothing but whatever the entities that a project has, like customer is one entity, And if he is doing any ordering thing, order will be one entity. Product only will be ordering, right? Product is one entity. Like that, for each entity, what are the attributes that he has? Like customer has customer ID, customer name, etc. and all. Like product has product ID, etc. Those will be coming under attribute. And how these entities and attributes are related will be representing in with the help of these relationships. Okay, like customer only orders a product, right? So that is why you can give a relationship like customer places an order like that. Okay. So with the help of these components only, we'll be drawing this conceptual model. Okay. So you don't need to draw this conceptual model. Okay. Just whatever the concept that you know about this conceptual model, present it. Okay. And next one is about MVC architecture. MVC architecture, like MVC is an abbreviation of model view controller. Okay. Okay, so model view controller is nothing but this is almost similar to MVC, three-tier architecture only. Okay, I think you once this explanation of this concept is done, you can relate it to three-tier architecture. Okay, so it is like an abbreviation called as model view controller. So with the help of these components, we'll be uh, software applications will be there, right? With the help of these components only, software application can be designed. Okay, so a model is nothing but these it consists of the data or the main logic behind whatever the actions that are being going on. Okay, so in this model we will be representing those logic of the application. Okay, whereas the view is nothing but the name itself it is saying, right? So whatever the components that are visible to the user through which he is going to interact, right? Those components will be coming under this view. Okay, it is just like a user interface through which the user interacts. Okay. Yes, for example, if you take those screens or web pages or anything, those will be coming under this view. Okay. Whereas this controller is nothing but it acts like a mediator between the model and the view. Okay. In the model, you will be storing all the data and all, right. So in the controller, it will be navigating or mainly acts like a bridge between this view and model. Okay. So for example, if we take for example, when a customer is ordering, right, through a screen or page, he will be viewing the products and he will be placing on the order, right? So those all things, payment, order, etc., all those will be coming under the model. Whereas this view means in the view only we'll be getting all this screens and all. Okay, and controller in the sense validation of this payment thing, etc. All those things will be coming under this controller. Whereas this model, whatever this data that has been stored, those will be stored under this model. Okay. So I think you might have related to this MVC architecture, like a three-tier architecture, right? So it is almost similar to the three-tier architecture only. Okay. So you need to write about these things in this question. Okay. And the next question is all about the contribution of a BA in the overall project. That is waterfall. Okay, so you know about this waterfall model, right? This waterfall model consists of several stages. Like what is first stage will be like pre-project planning, then the project is initiated, and there comes the main parts like requirements should be gathered, then should they should be analyzed, and then design part will be coming, and development, testing, and UAT process. Okay, as you all know, waterfall is like a sequential model. In the sequential model, until and unless one step is completed, we cannot go to the next step, right? So at each stage, what is the activities or the BA will be doing, we will be writing in this like BA contribution in the project in this question. Okay, so in the P project, what are the activities that is going to do? And under planning, when it comes to this planning, what are things should be planned? For when the project is initiated, what he should do. Okay, and what are the artifacts or resources that he used? All those things should be mentioned in this answer. Okay, so basically you are telling about what all a BA is contributed in overall project. You should write under these. Okay, So for example, if you take this requirement gathering, so under requirement gathering, you will be gathering all the requirements from all the stakeholders, right? So you will be using some various illustration techniques to gather which what are these illustration techniques. Those all things you can mention. Similarly, for all the stages, you need to mention like in each, what stage what you BA will be doing. Okay, this is all about this question. Okay. And then conflict management. Okay, so whenever you are like BA will be acting like a bridge between the developers and the stakeholders, right? So whatever the inputs that we get from the developers or else the client, we should only handle it, right? So whenever we are handling multiple inputs or multiple decisions, conflicts can be happening, right? So decisions can be aligned or else uh, disagreements can happen. So to manage all these disagreements, a technique has been given, like Thomas Kilman is a technique through which we can majorly reduce these conflicts, and we can implement this project without conflicts. So if at all any conflicts are happening, how should we reduce? Those things we'll be discussing in this technique. Okay. So Thomas Kilvan is a technique that is widely used, okay, in the in the modern world. This technique is used. What we will be doing in this technique is like there will be some components like assertiveness and cooperativeness. Based on those two components, you will be analyzing which category can be choose. Like there will be some compete, uh, compromise, etc. So based on these two components, we will be categorizing these things so that we can reduce or we can improve this productivity. Okay, first we need to do is this: what is a conflict that we are facing? We need to identify it. Okay, so for example, the developers are not understanding what that we are prepared. That is also one type of conflict, right? So first we need to identify what the developer is not understanding, right? So then discuss about this. What is the concept? What is the thing that is not understanding, through which we can represent it, or else we can explain it differently so that you can understand. Those things you can be discussed. Okay. Then agree with the root problem. Okay. So okay, just a second. Okay. So we should agree. The next step is like you need to agree with the root problem. Okay, so whatever the problem that you're facing, you need to find what the root problem is. Then you should mutually agree, like this is the root problem we need to solve, and then you can solve it. Okay, and then check for every possible situation of the conflict. Okay, so whenever a conflict is happening, there will be some situations or there will be some problems for that conflict, right? So you need to check or you need to identify all possible solutions. Whichever the solution is giving maximum output, you can use them. Okay, and then next negotiate the solution to avoid any further conflicts. Okay, so as you have gone through one conflict, right? So you might have learned something from that conflict. What need to be done while you get a conflict? How to rectify them? Those inputs you will be getting, right? So you make those inputs, and further conflicts cannot be happen, right? So to not happen those further conflicts, you can use the input from previous conflicts. Okay, so that is the main idea of this conflict management. Okay, definitely conflicts will be managing like happening when you are interacting with two persons. Conflicts definitely will be happening, but it depends on how you reduce those conflicts is the main thing. Okay, that is what you need to mention in this conflict management. Okay, and the next one is about reasons for a project failure. A project can fail due to various reasons. That can be from the development side or that can be from the client side, anything. But what are some possible reasons that can fail a project? You need to list under this question. Okay. So, for example, I've mentioned a few reasons like poor planning. If at all planning is not done properly, then it will not go as per the plan. Then a failure may be happening, right? So it cannot go through the correct timeline. The timelines with deadlines will be missed, and a project finally can be failed, right? That can be one possible reason. And also, if the client has not given correct requirements then that can be one possible reason, right? If at all the requirements are not given properly, then we cannot represent it correctly, right, to the developer, and the developer also will be facing issues, and totally it will be like a chaos, right? So that is one possible reason for a project failure. And also risk inadequate risk management. Risk can also be like every project has certain risk, but we need to manage those risks parallelly while the project is running, right? So if at all this risk is not properly managed, then but that can also be one possible reason, right? And also scope creep. Scope creep is nothing but if at all this project is not completed in particular duration, then a scope creep can be happen, right? So it can meet if it doesn't meet the deadline, then it will be extended, and this situation is called as a scope creep. Okay. So these are some possible reasons that you can list down. So like these reasons are not fixed, okay? Whatever reasons, these reasons can be various. Okay, sample purpose I've listed some of what I think. So similarly, if you have another reasons also, you can list under this answer. Okay. And the next question is about challenges faced whenever you are implementing any project as a BA. What are the challenges that you might be facing? Those challenges can be named under this uh, answer. Okay. So whatever the responsibilities of a VA are there, right? So at all the responsibilities, whatever challenges that you are facing, you can write under this. For example, mainly we will be handling the requirements, right? So using various illustration techniques, we'll be getting the requirements. So if at all we don't know what illustration techniques is, what else, in which context which illustration technique need to be used, then there will be some mismatch of the requirements, right? That is one of the major challenge that we can face. And also we will be interacting with various stakeholders, right? So few will be available at one time, few will be available at some other time, right? So to manage all those stakeholders at one time, it will be like headache, right? So that can be one possible challenge that you can face. And scope creep, like previously we have discussed about the scope creep, right? If at all this project is not completed in a within deadline, uh, that can be a reason for a failure, right? So to not get the project fail, we need to complete the whole project in particular deadline itself, right? So to manage how to complete it, that can also be one challenge, right? And also the time or resources that with the limited resources or whatever the resources that we have, we need to use all the resources and complete the project, right? So to manage all the time and resources, that is also one challenge that we are going to face, right? And also the main thing previously we have discussed about the conflicts, right? So whatever the conflicts will definitely happen, but you need to know how these conflicts are managed. Okay. You need to understand why these conflicts are happening and make sure these conflicts doesn't happen in the next time. Okay. So these are the challenges, and also he will be majorly BA will be documenting whatever the requirement that we have, and also the knowledge of a particular project. These are all the challenges that can have. Like, okay, so while documenting, you might face various challenges like the format or template, etc. Okay, and the knowledge for every project as a specific domain or knowledge you need to know, right? So while knowing that you might face some challenges, it may be new, it may be a new field to you, right? So you need to first know the knowledge, then you can complete the project. Okay. So these are some possible challenges that I have listed. If you have another challenges or any more challenges also, you can list them. Okay. So, and the next question is all about document naming standards. Okay. So, whenever as a BA, you will be writing or drawing many documents, right? So, it can be like FRD, BRD, business case document, etc. Right? So, whatever the documents at each phase, different documents are prepared, right? So, to easily navigate or to easily access those documents that you have prepared, there are some standards that are need to be maintained while naming those documents. Okay. So this is one standard technique that is widely used. Like a project first ID is given, before for the document name. Okay, and whatever the type of the document that is, you need to write under the top document type, and at which version that you are implementing or writing this document, you need to include the version, and at what date that you have prepared, you need to write it. For example, you can see this, right? Project 123 dot requirement slash 1.0 slash 2024, like the date, whatever the thing. Okay, so if you mention the document name in this way, then if you want to access this document based on the phase that you are, it will be easy, right? So now this is in REQ phase, right? So it can be like anything, whatever the document, like BRD, FRD. If you are in BRD still, now, for example, if you take, you are preparing this BRD document. Okay, so the project ID can be given some project ID like project 123, document name as BRD, at what version you are giving, like 1.2, 2.2, 3, etc. And at what date you are preparing, like 26th, or you can take this today, 10th December. Okay. Then the final document name you can give, right? Give it as project 123 hyphen BRD hyphen version is 1 and hyphen the date of the document that you have prepared. Okay, so if you prepare in such way, then throughout the process, through the whole project, whenever you want, you can access it easily and fastly. Okay, so that is the main idea of this document naming standards. Okay. Okay, so the next question is all about whatever the things that a BA should do and what things that a BA should avoid or don't do. Okay, those you can write under this answer. Okay, so do's are nothing but whatever the BA should do, like he should interact with various stakeholders or SMEs through which he can gain the knowledge. Whatever the doubts that he have, we can ask those SMEs, and if we want any clarification about the requirement that he has collected, so you can consult these MSMEs or the stakeholders, right? So whereas whenever is interacting with any stakeholder, we shouldn't judge the stakeholder, right? So they are not prepared to give the requirements. We need to be trained to gather the requirements from the stakeholder, right? So that is why we should never say no to the client. Whatever the requirement that is giving, even is not getting it clearly, we should be using various other methods. We should get all the requirements from the client. That is the main skill of a BA. Okay. Likewise, you need to do or mention all the things that a BA should do. Okay. So before going to the client, there should be some no expectations should be given or made, and no assumptions should be made. Okay. Whatever the client is telling, we should listen carefully, and we should get the requirements. Okay. Once he's completed with all the requirements or whatever he's saying, then you can ask your queries. No, do not judge or interfere in between. Okay, that is one possible do's. And when it comes to these do's, you shouldn't use by default. Okay, so it can be different. Like the context or anything can be different in each project, right? So you shouldn't use by default in any phase. Okay. Okay, so likewise, you need to write some of the do's and some of the don'ts that a BA should do in the overall project. Okay, and the next question is about packages and subsystems. Packages and subsystems are nothing but a package is all about the collection of components. Components can be like classes or objects or anything. Okay, so this collection of components which are not reusable nature are coming under these packages. Okay, so it consists of various complex classes objects which are used in the project. So these all are considered under one name called as this package. Okay, so majorly these application development companies are there, right? So where whatever the application that a company will be developing, those will be using these packages. Okay, whereas this subsystem is nothing but those same components will be their classes or objects, but those are in reusable nature, which means whenever a product is being developed, right? So in other product also, if the same functionality are there, then you can reuse the same classes or objects so that they can do it quickly. Okay. So majorly example like these product development companies are there, right? They will be using these subsystems in order to uh, like quickly develop those things. Okay. So it is just like, for example, if you take package is just like a folder type. Okay. Under folder, we will be using many files, right? Same thing under single package, we will be having multiple components. Under components, we will be having different classes and objects. Whereas a subsystem, it is just like a uh, mini application. Like under a main application, there will be a mini application, right? Under a big system, a mini application will be there, right? So that can be named under this subsystem. Okay. Okay, so for example, we can say that whatever, for example, TCS or any major companies are there, right? They will be developing these applications for different clients, right? So, for example, a taxation related software has been developed, right? So, a taxation would be different for each product or each thing, right? So, which are not reusable for other components that can be named under these packages, right? So similarly, the development companies like the idea behind a particular project. Like for example, a Flipkart is there. The idea behind this Flipkart, the orders will be listed, the products will be listed, and we are giving an option to the user so that he can place an order. That is idea, right? So this same idea can be implemented under Amazon also, right? And same with any other application, Myntra or anything, right? So this is all about these packages and subsystems. Okay. And camel casing. Next one is about camel casing. This is a technique that we will be using to name those variables or methods or functions in a project. Okay. So when you follow this tech, there is some standards that you need to maintain while naming these variables. Those technique is called as this camel casing. Okay, so in this camel casing technique, the first word of a method name should always be small letter. Okay, and the whatever the words that are coming after first word, those can be capital. The first word of the first word or first character of a next word can be capital. Okay, for example, you can see this camel case example, right? This consists of three words. There should be no gaps also. Okay, so the first word of a camel should always be a small letter, right? So whatever the words that are coming next, those words first letters can be capital. Okay. So this is a technique or standard that is used widely to name these variables. Okay. The in databases or example in DB schema or else to name the functions or variables or identities that are being used in the codes, we can use this technique. Okay. And then development server. Okay, so server is nothing but it is a place where data is stored. Whatever the data that we are handling in the project, those will be stored at some place, right? So that will be called as this development server. Whatever the IT companies that they use is development server because they only develop the projects, right? So as a BA, we will what access we will be getting this to this development server. We will be writing under this answer. Okay, so as a BA, we are involved in only few phases, right? For few phases only, we'll be getting an access. That is, we have only limited access, right? For the developers, they have the whole access because they need to test and all, right? Okay, so what access do we get under this development server? You need to mention in this answer. Okay. And next thing is about data mapping. Data mapping is nothing but how data as is interacting with each of the component. You need to show like how data is flowing from one entity or one attribute to other attribute. Okay. You need to show this is all about this data mapping, like how the data is being connected from different entities or anything. You need to write under this answer. Okay. What happens if data flows from one component to the other? Those all things should be mentioned. Okay. And then API. API is nothing but application programming interface. Okay. So application programming interface is nothing but it consists of the rules where each different components or different applications will be there, right? So for exchange of information, they will be using this API to exchange information. Okay. So in real life, we can take this example like if you take any e-commerce application. Okay. So if you want to do any payment, you will be there will be listing some other components, right? So you can do the payment if you select UPI, for example. Okay. So if you want to do a payment to UPI, it will be showing some different apps, right? So it is not nowhere related to this application, but whenever you are pressing on any Google Pay, it will be redirecting you to the Google Pay to do the payment, right? So here the Google Pay is interacting with your system or project, right? So to interact these two different applications will be used in this API. Okay. So API integration can be done using various techniques that can be like post, get, and all those methods will be there. So using those methods, two components will be like two applications will be interacting so that they can exchange those information. Once the payment is completed, it will be exchanging the information to the system so that an order will be confirmed, right? In this way, these APIs are usually used majorly for exchange of information or to interact with between two components or applications. Okay. Okay, so these are the questions that you are going to answer in this prep 3 part 1. Okay, so I hope it is clear, right, everyone?